Hi, hello, and welcome to LX2 Codependency Coaching. I am Stella. We are recording in the office. Again, still my office today. And I had some thoughts, and so I wanted to share them. I've been thinking about it kind of all week, as I do. But I did hear a really funny word this morning that was just kind of interesting. I was listening to Diary of a CEO, the Stephen Bartlett podcast, and he was talking to three humans talking about like creating meaning for people's lives. And you guys know that especially with existential therapy and just being an existential human, the way that I am, I'm always thinking about creating meaning. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But so he was talking to three people. He was talking to a theologian, Christian theologian, a an atheist, and some kind of psychiatrist or psychologist who's also a kind of spiritual practitioner. It sounds like he aligns more with like the Buddhist philosophy. And so it's a very interesting conversation that had me yelling in the car again. But the Christian guy said, they were talking about original sin, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, we could go on, but it's imponderable. And I was like, imponderable, really? I know a lot of overthinkers that would like to take on that task. So I thought that was hilarious. But today I wanted to talk about not just like making meaning, right? But what we give power to. And I'm really thinking about this idea of like we give other people our power when we get frustrated or overwhelmed with their behavior or choices or lack of behavior and choices. And so we get really frustrated or overwhelmed. But there's a lot of things that we give power to without really thinking about the fact that we are doing that, right? That we don't sit around going, I'm going to give this a lot of power over my, emotions or my experience. We just get really invested in it emotionally and have big reactions. And what we are doing is we're giving it power, right? A lot of times we do that with our diagnoses or our conditions or our childhood experiences or whatever is happening, right? We give things a lot of power and we don't consciously think about how much power we are giving something. And it's not until you're sitting with another person going, you're really giving that a lot of like way more influence over your situation than it warrants. And so I was thinking about that idea of what we give power to. And as it relates to, creating meaning in our life, sometimes we have to give it less power or, really kind of focus on what's the goal, right? Part of what had me thinking about this is historically, and I've shared this with you guys, like I go through a depressive period, usually from, October, November-ish until February 1st. And the other day, I just woke up feeling just heavy and blue. And rather than, like in the past, I would get frustrated with myself because I would be like, there's actually nothing wrong. And I don't know why I feel this way, but I recognize it because there's like a switch in my brain where things can go from like gratitude, positivity, finding meaning and purpose to meaninglessness, hopelessness, everything just sucks. And, I know what that transition is. And so I acknowledged it. I was like, okay, this is the time of year, Stella. Part of it, I love the fall, don't get me wrong. Eliza Schlesinger, the comedian, does a whole bit about how women have to love fall in order to be women. I like transitional seasons. I actually like spring as well. And I feel differently in spring, but I love the chill in the air. I love hoodie weather. I love, that it's colder. I sleep longer, which is amazing. I used to love that about camping because, especially in the mountains, it gets cooler at night. And so, yeah, I sleep much better, like kind of cozy and stuff. Any hoops, I, I recognized the switch and I acknowledged that this is what was happening. And then I, had a couple like down sluggish blue days where, again, part of a depressive diagnosis is anhedonia, which is feeling like you can't connect with joy or find joy and meaning and purpose in the things that you once did. And it's really kind of just it's a gross gray feeling. So I acknowledged it. I kind of sat in it for at least a day, maybe two, gave it some power. And then the next day, I think it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday, I acknowledged that I was not going to give it any power. I was going to be like, okay, Stella, this is what happens. Your brain does this, and part of it is the season, and part of it is the, whatever, and it is part of our historical DNA that this is something that happens, but I'm not going to give it any power today. Like, I have to push through, I have to get things done. I'm going to look for the glimmers or the good things, and I'm going to be grateful, and I have to be more intentional with that gratitude and with that practice of connecting with things that bring me joy or help me to feel better when I know this is part of what happens. It could just be that my brain just makes less serotonin this time of year. It could be that, holidays on all the things that are coming have a lot of heaviness for me. Like, there's a whole lot of reasons, right? And I could sit and analyze it all day long, and I would much rather take some of my own power, autonomy, agency back and work through it, right? And even though I can get really blue or frustrated, some years it's better than others, and it really just depends on the situation and circumstance. But I go into this hibernation space where I isolate, where I don't really want to engage, in outdoor activities, and I don't want to go, hang out with my friends and all those things. But again, taking back my power and acknowledging, like, okay, what can I control? Well, I can be more conscientious of my gratitude practices. I can take really good care of myself and listen to my body. So when I am feeling more tired than usual, then I give myself an opportunity to rest. I still have things to do, so I still have to show up and be at work and do my job. And so I have to get better at managing the compartments that I put those things in. And so it's that, right? It's that practice of consciously recognizing this is my condition right now, and how do I work through it? A lot of times when people have conditions, whatever they are, right? Whether they're disorders or, all the things in terms of how our brains work, like, I give space for a client to, like, talk about their symptoms, talk about what they're going through, talk about those experiences. And I'm very solution focused, so I'm going to give them tools to acknowledge that, yes, even though this is how your brain works and this is what's happening, how do we connect with working through it? And because I work with adults, I'm like, you've worked through it your whole life. You've been able to get through those things. If it's a new situation or circumstance, let's say it's grief or, a shitty job or, an unhelpful relationship dynamic, whatever it is, then how do we make sure that you're taking care of you right now in this moment, right? Rather than giving power to the situation, circumstance, or diagnosis, how do we work on getting through the moment and then also having a fulfilling experience, even though this is part of your reality? Water. And it's helpful. It's interesting and helpful. I've got lots of clients who at the beginning are going to talk about the narrative. They're going to talk about the story. They're going to talk about the historical reasons why they are experiencing the things they're experiencing or why they feel the way they do about a situation. And a lot of times when we're stuck in that narrative, that's giving it a lot of power. It's giving that unhelpful, like, dynamic or series of things all of this control over how you perceive the world. Okay, so first couple times we're talking about that, maybe even just the first time, because I'm getting to know you, I'm getting to understand, like, what's going on with you. By the second time, I'm like, all right, well, how is it affecting your life today? What is happening in your situation or circumstance that feels really unmanageable, right? And for people that I've known for a long time, that I've worked with for a long time, we I can track it. They don't always see it because, again, when you're in history and living in it, you don't really understand it. It feels heavy and overwhelming. But when you look at it from a historical context and look back and go, okay, I was able to get through these things in this way, then it becomes a little bit easier to acknowledge those things. And again, you take your power back. You're able to, like, again, figure out your agency, figure out what can I control. That's why I say that all the time. Control what you can and check your facts. Those are the two most prolific tools that I use on a regular basis in my work as well as in my life. And it really does help me to feel then I have a sense of agency and control over the situations and circumstances that I'm going through. And even though there are regular things that happen in life, right? I think I've shared with you, like, my fall is just a time when there's a lot of transitions. Some of the biggest transitions in my life has happened in September. Some of the most significant parts of my business happened in August. And by the time I get to October, I'm exhausted, right? I'm just tired. And so I acknowledge that. I recognize that these are things that just happen. I still have to do the things that I have signed up for, either cosmically or just in my everyday practical business as usual kind of life. I do remember last month I had called a friend and I was like, I just want to be regular. Can I just be regular? Can I just be like a Walmart greeter, which is a very important job, or stalker or whatever. Adding stock, not STALK. But I just want to be regular. I don't want to have all this responsibility of like running a business and, taking care of the humans that I work with. I called her and I was like, can I just do regular things? And she said, yes. And, you can be regular, but you've already accomplished a lot of really like important things. And so you're going to have to do both. And I was like, well, I mean, I've already climbed the mountains. I've already done the like really challenging things. I could just let it lie. Just let it be there. The book is already out there. The podcast, there's tons of episodes people can listen to. If I never said another word to a microphone and a camera again, nobody would give a shit. These are things that kind of go through my head when I'm feeling really frustrated. And in the moment, I give them a lot of power. And so I want you to start to think about when, whatever your season is for feeling overwhelmed, hopeless, helpless, all the things, what are you giving power to, right? A lot of times it's another person because they come in with their shitty attitude or they aren't doing their part or they're not managing their own emotions or whatever it is, right? I'm going to have some coffee. And so we get really frustrated and overwhelmed and we give them our power. We give them our reaction. We give them our peace. And that is the opposite of giving someone your power, is taking back your peace, is taking back like, okay, there's lots of shitty situations happening right now. And I am not dismissing the fact that these are very vital, very important, very significant situations. And if going and holding a sign helps you to feel back, to take back your power and to feel like you're doing something, then do that. If writing a letter or, making a phone call makes you feel powerful, okay, do that. If managing your peace helps you feel powerful, then figure out what is bringing peace to your experience. Some big situations and diagnoses and circumstances we cannot change overnight, literally at all. Like, they're just going to be what they are, right? I have a lot of clients who live with like chronic conditions, like chronic pain conditions or situations, and they've learned tools and skills to work through that. They've learned tools and skills to be able to manage it and also have very vital and important lives, relationships, all the things. They work through it. And that's one of those things where it's like, you can look at your challenging diagnosis, situation, circumstance, and be like, this is hopeless, I can't work through it. That's an option. But it's not the only one, right? There are some conditions that feel chronic, but are temporary. And how do you work through that? Like, I know in my brain that come February 1st, I just feel better. But I have to get through all of October, November, December, and January in order to do that. That's 4 months out of a 12-month year where I don't feel my best, where I have to work that much harder to just feel regular. Not even great, just regular, right? Fortunately, and I am grateful for those people that I can fact check with that do a really good job of giving me the information that I have loaded them up with. I can say to them, I am struggling. I am having a hard time. This is not my favorite time of year or time of day, or, I'm having a rough few days, and they can fact check it through with me. And I can be snarky and shitty when they're trying to do that. I have been known to do that. But I am grateful for those people. I'm also grateful for the people who in my life can call me and go, I'm going through it. Can I just vent for a minute? And can I fact check with you? Yeah, absolutely. Let's go. With my clients, they are willing and committed to making an appointment, coming in. They understand what that 50-minute situation is for, and then they process through it, and usually they feel better. And a lot of times at the end of a session, I have been known to be like, okay, what is it that you need moving forward, right? I get to about 45 minutes. I say, okay, this is what I heard you say. We kind of recap. And then I say, what do you need from me? Do you want to come in next week? Do you want to come in 2 weeks? What do you feel like you need, right? A lot of times they'll be like, I really just appreciate having a space to say all the words that I cannot say in my regular life. I'm taking back my power and acknowledging that sometimes I just need to vent and say these things. I feel more powerful now that I have some tools and skills to be able to go through it, at least to get through the next 2 weeks, right? And yeah, let's keep it pushing. And I recognize that they feel better having come here for that 45 minutes. Sometimes it's hard, right? Because I'm going to say the hard truths. I'm going to lay down the reality for them that is difficult to look at times. But once you have some tools, just knowing you have a tool increases your power and increases the potential for you to have peace, right? It gives you the opportunity to go, okay, if I know that I can do something about it, even though it's going to be a permanent situation, I feel more powerful. I feel like I can work through it, even if it's just another 2 weeks, right? Even if I can just get through between now and the next time I can come in and process again, right? Often I encourage people to schedule things that they can look forward to, whatever that is, be it, a good coffee or lunch with a friend or a road trip, or knowing that they're going to go get groceries and get a yummy snack, whatever it is, right? But that is how we take back power. That is how we can contribute to our peace. That's how we can let go of the diagnoses or the situation or the circumstance and go, okay, what can I control in this moment? Right? I can control me. I can control my choices. I can sit in my car and cry if that's what I need to do. I can go for a run or a hike. I can take the dog to the dog park. I can go outside. You know that I'm a huge proponent for going outside and taking care of those things. I can feed myself, right? The big three are still the big three and important, even when you're slow, even when you're not feeling great. How much sleep am I getting? What am I eating and putting in my body to fuel myself? And am I moving around, right? I have to continue to do those things, one, for my mental health, but also for my routine, so that I feel as though my power is in controlling what I can, right? And so I encourage people often to be like, all right, let's set up a prescription of things that you can do to be able to manage this situation and circumstance, to be able to have some peace in this really challenging or difficult time. And when they feel as though they can control it, guess what? They feel better. And like I said, I am being really intentional every day of okay, I'm going to get through today. I'm going to have my coffee. Today was my Pilates day, so I worked out. I'm going to, I know what I can control in terms of my appointments, even if something happens and changes, right? If I get a spontaneous cancellation, if somebody needs an emergency appointment and I have some space, that's what I'm going to do, right? If I have to be creative and do my podcast early and then all the things, I've got 3 videos I need to edit and put on YouTube, and I will. But I do those things, right? Like, I know these are the things that need to be done, and I prioritize daily, how do I get through today? And then by the end of the day at 6:30 when I get home, then I can put it all away and go, cool, I made it through. Like, I look forward to Wednesdays because by the end of Wednesday, then I know I've only got 2 days left, right? Those are little tricks and hacks that I have learned over time to be able to get through the kind of rougher period of my mental health, the rougher period of those circumstances or situations. And even though life is life and it continues to be challenging, right? Sometimes it's like, I'm not gonna scroll on Instagram today. I'm not going to, pay attention to whatever the news feed is or, those things, because I don't have the space for it. I tell people often to recognize what their capacity is, what kind of threshold or energy, what is their yes budget, to be able to recognize what you can get through, and then how do you take care of yourself, right? Even in those chronic condition situations where I know that I have to manage my blood sugar, I have to manage, my my arthritis, I have to manage, my all the things that I have to manage, so many things. My perimenopausal body, right? I need to make sure that I take my supplements. I need to make sure that I am watching how much sugar I consume. And yes, I'm still going to have a carby snack, but paying attention to how much gluten I eat, because that also, contributes to my inflammation. When I'm not feeling my best, if my body is also not feeling well, that's going to be triple compounded. I'm going to be in bed not wanting to do things. Because I run my own business, I have to show up. That's just how it works. If I don't work, I don't make money. If I don't show up, then I don't pay my bills. I think that's true for most people, right? If I don't show up to work, I don't have the money, I cannot pay my bills, I cannot, life is still expensive and important. I was talking to someone this morning and they were like, sometimes I don't want to get out of bed. I'm like, same, dude. But I got to keep the dog in dog food, and I like to have my own place. So I'm going to get up and go to work today, right? I don't have to like it, but what I can do is be grateful that I have it. And that's how we get through. That's how we continue to push, keep it pushing, as my accountability buddy used to say. I think she probably still says it. She just hasn't said it to me in a while. I just keep it pushing. I just keep moving forward, right? And it's easy to give up my power and feel like everything else is taking my choices or not, supporting me in this situation. And that is an option, but I prefer my peace. So I'm going to control what I can. I'm going to check my facts and recognize that I have gotten through every other October before now for the last 52 years. And I do not have to be incredibly happy the whole time, but most of the time I'm content because the things I can control contribute to my peace. There's your nugget. Still looking for another office. I'm going to find that. You'll see, when I post a video. But I'll also tell you, that's kind of the fun thing about this experience. But I wanted to give you that nugget of what are you giving your power to? And how do you manage your peace, right? Recognize what you can control. Check your facts. Do what you need to. Because there are things that all of us have to, right? Because if we don't, then we're going to be even more uncomfortable than we are right now. But for those of you that struggle this time of year, I also have people who love this time of year. When it gets cold, when it's darker, they thrive. So I'm happy for them. I want that for them. I'm looking forward to hoodie season. We're definitely doing layers these days. There's your nugget. I will talk to you soon. If you have any questions, want to get a hold of me, it's lx2.cod.coach@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Luna_X2_LLC or LX2 Codependency Coaching Podcast. You can also find me on TikTok. and occasionally on Facebook. Anyway, I will talk to you guys soon. Also, just wanted to point out, the book is still selling, and I forget that like it's a passive income thing. But if you want to get a hold of that, the book is called Best Intentions, The Things We Do for Love. I am putting together some things so that I can give you an audiobook. And so life just keeps lifing. Like, let's just keep it pushing. Recognize that we're all kind of going through something. And I see you and I acknowledge that. And I recognize that sometimes you just have to move a little slower. There you go. I'll talk to you soon.